Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Loot Hair Department Head Barry Limo, a five-time Emmy nominee and two-time Emmy winner, and Makeup Department Head Amy L. Forsythe, a three-time Emmy nominee here, and they're both here to discuss season 2 of Loot on Apple TV Plus. A great season. It was so much fun. I guess just wanted to take the 30,000-foot view. I guess coming into the season 2, working together. Like, what were your overall goals, and like, how'd you kind of discuss, where the season would go and how you kind of wanted to work together to get it there?
Right?
I mean, it all starts with the script, obviously, and the journey that we went on in season two was much different than season one, but we also had a better understanding of who these people were in the story and kind of where we wanted to improve our work from season one and where we could take liberties to do so. It's always nice when you go into a second season of a show because I feel like you have a better idea of who these people are and kind of how they present themselves in the world.
Yeah, I agree. And just having shortcuts with both the cast and the crew already, we kind of have a shorthand from season one. So everyone can kind of just hit the ground running for a season two versus kind of trying to figure everything out like you do for a season one.
So you mentioned like having like these, you get to know the characters too, like you were saying, Barry, and like I guess like I feel like all of these characters are expanded upon and like really developed. For Molly and Maya Rudolph, I love the opening of the season with the Vogue 73 questions and like her, that's like her
Yeah.
downsized look, but it's obviously not. So I guess like how did you kind of like just starting there right at the jump? Like how did you guys work together, and like what were your kind of thoughts on Molly's evolution both there and then as we see her throughout the rest of the season?
I think we wanted to take her into like a more ethereal kind of natural kind of vibe. You know, she's a little bit pared down from the corporate that she kind of ended with season one, which was really fun. And she's, she's single, she's on the prowl. So, it was fine. It was fun to like find like that glow from within of, someone that's actually starting to heal.
And Barry, how about you?
It's an interesting character to study because, when you look at someone who's a billionaire, there's so many different ways you could approach that sort of person. And every person that exists in our society who has money like that, they're all different. When you look at like a Lauren Sanchez versus I'm trying to think of like an Olsen twin, the styling of all these things, they're very, very different in the way that they approach their fashion and the way they look. And a lot of this came from conversations with Maya and kind of how she felt like she would identify in that space. So it's fun to look at this because I think my instincts would have been over the top and big, tons of crazy looks. But with conversations with Maya, we kind of landed on Molly is very sophisticated and streamlined and has sort of this really natural, clean look all the time.
Did you get to
But she's
do,
wearing
yeah.
expensive clothes and all of these things, but no one knows that because her look is approachable, I think.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And then you get, I feel like, a great contrast this season with Grace, played by Anna Gasteyer, who maybe is the flip side of that coin, more outlandish perhaps, and more like
Yeah.
leaning into the billionaire lifestyle. So is that like, and when you have like that's a new character, I guess. So like, did you get like, how'd you kind of establish her look, and like what you got, like is that working with like the creators and Anna, or is it like kind of like figuring it out on your own? Like how'd you kind of do that?
I mean, I knew from the jump that I know Anna from the past, and she's a theater girl. She loves hair and she's willing to play with kind of big over the top silhouettes. So we immediately talked about taking her to the next level and kind of playing up the kind of insanity of that character. And we got to do that and have a lot of fun. And I really hope, she's my like hope for a season three if we get one that she'll be in the storyline somewhere because seeing her and Maya work together because they have such a history was such a amazing thing to witness. Their comedy history, like they're legends. And when you get to see two people like that working together, it inspires you when you're around them because they really vibe off each other.
Amy, what about for you for Anna's look and
I
Grace?
mean, similar to Barry, she really wanted to play. She likes getting into the character and she doesn't, she wants to strip herself away from her as a human versus what the character would do. And so it was fun to do like this messy, trashy makeup when you get introduced to her with her smeared lipstick and she's been on a bender, you know, and then later doing like a more polished, you know, Vanity Fair cover. You know, it was just really fun to kind of play with her face in these moments with stuff that, you know, she as a character might, you know, surround herself with, you know, bolder colors, more eye, you know what I mean? Stuff that like Maya's character wouldn't necessarily always partake in.
Barry, you mentioned something there about like getting to, obviously they are so funny together, right? Like, and this is just a really funny show. It feels like a really like authentically funny comedy series that like recalls like stuff I love, like Parks and Rec or 30 Rock or all these different shows. Is there but it is in the real world. So I guess for you guys, is there a difference between the genre? Like when you're doing a comedy like this, does that impact what you're doing, like with the hair and the makeup, or do you kind of just treat these like real characters and real people, and it doesn't matter what they're executing, whether it's drama or comedy?
I think with this piece, when you watch it, it's obviously a comedy, but there's a lot of heart in it, and these are very real, well-developed characters, especially in season two. There's a lot of touching moments, and we really kind of see that this show is maybe not your traditional sitcom. It's more of like a dramedy. Like there are highs and lows within the story, and we really see sort of these characters come to life this season. So approaching it like they're real people is more what I did. Obviously, we have moments where we can go over the top and play into the comedy when the script calls for it, but we also are kind of it's our job to represent like who these people are. They all come from socioeconomic backgrounds that are different. You know, we have people that work at a nonprofit that don't have a lot of money. And then, you know, the flip side where we have Maya's character where it's just over the top everything and trying to find that balance so that we're portraying these people in a realistic way, but also leaning into the comedy, obviously, when we have the opportunity.
Yeah,
Amy,
and
yeah.
so with each character, we, you know, start to kind of lay out rules, you know, based on who they are, where they're from, what they would do. So as you go into a season two, you already have kind of what we've started out with in season one and playing with their characters, and like an Ainsley, you know, is a very like sweet, you know, angelic little creature, you know, but you know, she's not afraid to do a bold red lip at a fashion show, you know what I mean? But you just have like this like sweet little angelic face where you have a little bit more neutral tones on someone like Michaela J. You know, I just feel like diving into each character with each actor and kind of focusing on what people would really do, but also play with it a little bit because it's a TV show.
Right. You mentioned Michaela
And I
J. So,
think that,
go ahead, Barry. Yeah, go, please.
oh, sorry. And I
No.
think that the great thing about this is that it's not your traditional like network comedy where everything is sort of kind of dialed in. Everyone has one generic look, and that's kind of what they present for every season. This one gives us really the opportunity to play
Hmm.
a lot of time, which I'm grateful for because it's not just the same look day after day after day. Like with our costume designer Kirsten, and within conversations with the actors, we do get an opportunity to really, you know, flesh out these characters and develop real looks, which is fun to
Yeah,
have that.
yeah, I totally agree. There's some shows where you don't really get to run the gamut with the characters, and you don't get to see them and what would they do if they went to a, you know, a gala? What would they do if you caught them on a day off at their house? You know, so it's really fun to be able to play with what these characters, you know, really live as in these different environments that they're in.
Yeah, you mentioned Michaela J, and Sophia obviously has such a great arc this season too, and compared like it grows so much from what we saw in the first season, getting to go into a relationship and stuff, seeing her in different aspects of her life, right, that we hadn't seen before. I guess how did you and Barry, I know obviously you've worked with Michaela J before, so I guess how did you kind of like think about Sophia's growth this season and like how she would look, and especially like separating like how she looks in the office perhaps versus like how when she's out on a date or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, we in the beginning of this series, we kind of based some of her look off of, you know, like a very famous congresswoman that we all know, like AOC. Like that was kind of the utilitarian, like office look. Like she's a business person that is focused on her work. She's not focused on how she looks. everything about her appearance is serving her time and her day, like what she has to do at work. So she's not wasting time kind of getting ready each morning. But in season two, as we see her love life develop and we get to see sort of the softer side of Sophia, we did talk a lot about how can we show that with little things that shift. And so we took her hair longer and we played with different silhouettes with her hair, not just straight all the time. And we made her feel more done up in moments when she was on a date, or she was casual, but still around Isaac, her man. You know, even that scene when she comes in and she's wearing like his t-shirt and she's got her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. It's like finding the romantic quality in even those undone looks was fun to play with her because I feel like her storyline really does have a romance throughout the whole season.
It's really very sweet. Amy, what about you for Sophia and Michaela's look?
Season one, yeah, like he said, we were, you know, kind of doing this AOC kind of version of her where, you know, she's more about the work instead of herself, but, you know, polished, put together. After seeing color correction from season one, we made some adjustments with lip colors and cheek colors and making everything a little bit more earthy and natural. I think that it represents Michaela J's face in the best light. And her character, to be honest, you know, we were able to do subtle shifts with her makeup with a lip choice or just a slight difference with the lower liner where it intensifies or lessens the vibe for like a laid back version versus a work version. So it was easier to kind of like play with things in the smallest ways instead of trying to go a little bit out there. So I feel like less is more sometimes.
For sure. I want to ask you about Arthur also. I just love like I love Nat Faxon. I think the character is so fun and like he's obviously also like we said, every one of these characters really significantly grows, I feel like in the second season. But I guess for him and for like yeah, like what are the subtle differences there as like a guy like kind of really feeling like he's like feeling his you know, he's like feeling himself now, right? Maybe more confident, I guess. So, like how do you reflect that in how his look is gonna change or grow?
I mean, we did very minor things with like styling his hair in moments that he was around Molly or he was on a date with Willa. And they're just super subtle things because a guy like that, like, you know, he doesn't really have much to work with in terms of how you change, but that's a very real thing. You know, when you have normal people, especially normal men, like there's not a lot that like I can do to change up the way that I look except my clothing. Or I guess I could put makeup on or something if I wanted to, but the subtleties um limit what you can do in those situations because with women, obviously, you can do their hair, add extensions, all these things that indicate a glow up in these moments. But with men, it's a little more challenging. It's more in their energy and the clothing, I guess, that they wear that really sort of tell the story there.
Do you have like how do you keep track? Like you're right. Like I think there is like probably a lot of subtle things that you're doing, right? Especially like you said, because like there's not outwardly so much to work with as there is with like Maya or Michaela. Do you like? Are you like? I mean, how do you like keep track of what you're trying to do with that with like with the guys? Are you like? Do you like have like a giant spreadsheet that you're like, oh, we tried this, or are you like kind of looking at photos of them? Like, how do you kind of like keep it track of these maybe nuanced changes that you're trying to affect?
I mean, it's all in continuity that we do daily, but a lot of this stuff comes from conversations with the actors and kind of how they feel like they would show up in these moments. And from there, we build sort of like a little catalog of looks that we can play with that we both agree are within this character's wheelhouse in terms of how they would dress or look. But a lot of it's also informed by the clothing and what they're wearing in those moments. But yeah, we do try to do little things though to indicate moments, especially with the men, whether it's styling their hair back or down, you know, there's so much, only so much you can do, but all these little things do change things because you know when you see like a guy come to work in the office every day and he's worn his hair the same way for 15 years and then suddenly he styles it a little bit back with some gel or something, everyone's like, oh, what are you doing today? Like there's a new vibe. And it's a big shift, you know, it may not feel like it to that person, but when you see someone look the same exact way for 10 years and then they shift one little thing, it is a big change.
Yeah, and for us on our end, it's a little bit like their skin texture, the opacity of the makeup, how much concealer they might have underneath their eyes will transition, them from one moment to another. So there's tiny things you can do with a clean shaven man to kind of help his character live these moments. But yeah, like Barry said, it's just, keeping track of everything and talking to the actors and at the end of the day, making sure it just translates as a whole.
Is that like a big challenge to make, like, it's like this show, like we're saying, like there's these, you were working like billionaire class, it's like, Molly and like Grace and stuff, and then you have like like, for lack of a better word, like regular people. Is that a huge challenge to like make but they're act, you know what I mean, but they're famous actors, very good. Is it a challenge to make like the actors look like regular realistic people, you know what I mean, like regular people that you'd be able to see on the street, like because you maybe don't have as many levers to pull, I guess, or do you have to make it so it doesn't look like you're pulling so many levers with the makeup?
I mean, I still want it to be a fun comedy TV show look with as far as like how polished things are, you know what I mean? As far as everyone's skin has a certain, glow to it. When the light reflects on it, we're not trying to dull anything down. It's not a drama or anything heavy. So the realism part is, it's there, but you still have that polished kind of layer over it. So it's a fun watch.
Right. Yeah.
And when you look at this
yeah,
show, we're very lucky because they've really invested a lot of time and money into the way that the show looks. The color palette of the whole series, the way it's lit, everything looks very polished just by the way it's shot. So we're lucky in that sense because even our realism within this piece is polished realism. We're not doing, like, I'm doing a movie right now where my actress like does her own hair a lot of times just because it adds to the level of realism and it's messy and all these things, but like we're not going for that on this. The closest we get with this is the character of Rhonda, who is played by Megan Faye, and she's like kind of the sloppy one in the office, so her hair is more messy than I would normally like it to be, but she very much wanted it to feel a little bit undone, like she's the crazy cat lady of the group and maybe has a drinking problem, who knows. But so there's little moments like that that we can play with some of the realism, but even then it is still there's still sort of a polished lens over the whole thing.
Barry, at the top you mentioned like going into season 2, like kind of I guess like challenges, or like just like, I guess for you guys, like what was maybe the thing that you were most, I don't know, like pressed about, or like expecting to be a challenge that you were able to like, overcome, or happy the way it turned out, I guess, with this season?
For me,
I just wanted to improve. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say for me, it's the new characters. It's always the new characters. If they're tethered to another show and you need to keep their facial hair the way it's supposed to be for another show, the actor doesn't want it like that for your show. You know what I mean? So it's like it's balancing that portion of it. Okay, what can we do realistically with this person to separate them from their other show, but give them what they want for this character. So it's a fun little game to play, and then of course you have to like loop the producers in, make sure everyone's happy. But I feel creatively I like the challenges, when stuff like that happens.
And Barry, what about you? What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say that anytime you get a second season, you always want to, for me, improve upon what I did the previous season. So that was my biggest sort of goal slash challenge, is to kind of look at things that stood out to me in season 1 and how I could improve those and tell the story better.
And I have to say, as just a viewer, I feel like you guys both did. This season was really fantastic. We have to wrap up here, but Loot Hair Department Head Barry Limo and Makeup Department Head Amy L. Forsythe, and fingers crossed for season 3, which would be great. But thank you guys. Season 2, you could stream all the episodes on Apple TV Plus. Thank you so much for doing this.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you so much.
you.